YouTube, welcome back to the show. You, like me, are getting ready for your NFL fantasy draft. We're all dotting our I's and crossing our T's and making sure that all the research and our rankings that we put together over the summer is legit. And yes, there are years, some more than others. Tell me if you can relate. When you come away of that draft and your team is looking fly, and you just know deep in your heart that you've drafted the best team possible. How could they allow you to put together and assemble a team of this magnitude? Today we're going to go over some bold predictions, some fantasy draft overview, some mid-round targets, and finally, them golden sleepers, baby. If you're a fan of the show, you know that I have some interesting takes on this year. I have some takes in this year that start taking effect in the draft and how you approach it. We are in the golden age of the quarterback position and the tight end position. I don't believe there's ever been more talent at those two positions than we've ever had. The problem with those two positions is that we only need one person. There's a single starting positional player. You are starting one quarterback and one tight end. But just think about it. Think about that quarterback. You know, last year, Aaron Rodgers MVP. Year before that, Lamar Jackson. Year before that, Patrick Mahomes. And we still not mentioning Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. Tom Brady just won a Super Bowl. Ryan Tannehill. Josh Allen just went crazy. Everyone's forgetting about Russell Wilson. And then not to mention Justin Herbert, who's coming off probably the best year rookies ever had at the quarterback position. Not to mention the teams that are getting hot and the QBs that are getting hot, like Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, last year's #1 overall pick, and Miami coming with Tua. And we also have this incoming crop of generational quarterbacks, right? We got the Trevor Lawrences, the Justin Fields, the Trey Lance, and we also got those quarterbacks that we also got to keep an eye on, like Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. And I know me mentioning all these talented quarterbacks have hyped up the quarterback position and have you thinking, let me go get my guy. But in fact, the required action is the exact opposite. Do not take a quarterback high because there's so much talent. Quarterback has never been deeper. So my draft strategy for you guys when it comes to the quarterback position, more than any other year, is wait, because the top guys are not separating themselves as much as they used to be. And the same thing goes for tight end. With the amount of athleticism coming into the draft and the amount of high draft capital getting spent on tight ends, and not to mention over the summer, Kittle, Kelsey, all these people, you know, they came together to create tight end U. And I think that for the most part, and when it comes to a position that we all dread and hate, if we don't have a top two guy, we're all in this tight end streamer mix. I think this year you're going to be able to get your hands on a good tight end at any point in the draft. Let's go through the list. You have a big three, which is already big for a tight end position. It's usually a big two, but it's a big three now. It's Kelsey, enough said. Then you have Darren Waller and George Kittle. Then you have a next three guys who wouldn't surprise me if all three of them end up being in the top tier in the upcoming year. Mark Andrews, TJ Hockenson, Kyle Pitts. But these guys are athletically different, where the team spent high draft capital. Mark Andrews is the go-to guy for Lamar. And all his wide receivers are hurt anyway. TJ Hockenson, there's no other options in Detroit. Jared Goff has to throw it to somebody, and TJ Hockenson had a great year last year. And now with the target share going up with Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay out of town, TJ Hockenson is a great take this year. And you get Kyle Pitts, who is a generational tight end, and it's just different. And not to mention, Julio Jones is out. And who can do Julio Jones better than another 6'5", 230-something pounder who can go up and high point the ball? The next wave of tight ends, you got Noah Fant, Dallas Goedert, you got Tyler Higbee, Robert Tonyan, last year's tight end 3, Mike Gesicki, Logan Thomas, sleepers like Cole Kmet. I think this is going to be the best year we've had in terms of fantasy production for the tight end position over the last decade or so. So I would wait on quarterback and tight end more than ever this year because of the amount of talent and depth that is at those positions. I'm not a huge believer in the first-round running back this year. Unless you're the God tier, which is the top two picks, right? You have McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. I'm not a big believer. Derrick Henry's reaching his touch threshold. He's past the 1,500 touches. Is when running backs start to decline in terms of production, and he's never been a big receiving back either. He doesn't get much receiving production. Saquon Barkley is still coming off an injury, dealing with a crappy quarterback in line. Ezekiel Elliott, same thing as Derrick Henry, same class. He's got a lot of touches over the year. He's put a lot of mileage. And I'm not saying these guys are not going to be productive. What I'm saying is that these guys at the top are not that young and have a lot of mileage already. So we're going to go over draft strategy. And the reason I brought this all up in terms of these takes, so that you understand how these theories play into your draft and how to approach them the right way. So now that we spoke about my theories of this season, let's go into draft strategy, which primarily begins with where you get to draft from. And I know most of us don't know. I have intricate ways of finding out draft order. But for the most part, it's pretty random. I understand. But the moment you find out draft order, you need to understand how to approach the draft. So let's go over tiers, because the tiers are going to play into how do you draft. My top tier consists of 2 players, and I call this tier the God tier. It's Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. These are no-brainers. These guys will produce like 2 players in one. The offense is built around them. They get a crazy amount of receiving production. They're on the field all the time. But if you're not lucky enough to get a top 2 pick, then we're talking about the next tier, which I call the anchors, our anchor tier. There's 11 players in this tier, and we're all going to get one of them. Everyone, for the most part, we play in 12-man leagues, all going to get one of these players because there's 11 of them plus the top 2, which is 13 players total between the first tier, which is the God tier, and the anchor tier. The reason I call them anchor pieces is because this is what we build our team around. This is the piece that is supposed to instill fear in your opponent. It's like, oh, fuck, I'm going against Tyreek Hill this week, or I'm going against Saquon Barkley this week. So being that there's 13 total between the top 2 tiers, snake draft, you want to be at the end of the draft. Ideally, number 12 to ensure 2 players from that anchor tier no one else will be able to do because of the manner for which snake drafts work, right? It goes from first to last and last to first, and we understand this concept. So if you get the last pick, if you're pick 12, you are guaranteed another anchor piece. Now, option 3, which seems the least preferable, but for most of us, we're gonna fall in this option. YouTube, I just want to say I absolutely love making these videos for you guys, and all I ask for in return is 2 clicks. 2 clicks. What's 2 clicks? Just hit the subscribe button and hit the like button, and that's it. You just 2-click me. Go ahead and do it. Which is pick 3 through 11, right? This does not ensure us 2 of the anchor pieces, and we're gonna be stuck with just 1 of them, right? For the most part, we're not gonna have a top 2 pick, and we're also not gonna have the last pick, right? We're gonna be stuck in that mid tier. I'm not a big fan of the running backs in this tier. The running backs in this tier all have major question marks more this year than ever. Alvin Kamara, with Drew Brees retiring and the quarterback carousel, Mike Thomas being out or missing most of the season, I see a lot of stacked boxes in his future. Derrick Henry, his game is not predicated over receiving production, and that's fine. He's been uber productive over the last years, just strictly being the rushing king. But as we know, running backs have a short and fast decline, and when it happens, and it usually happens around the 1,500 touch mark, which Derrick Henry has eclipsed since last season. The same can be said for Ezekiel Elliott. Insane amount of touches, a lot of mileage. I know he looks great in training camp. He lost a lot of weight, and we're watching Hard Knocks, but that doesn't matter. There is a lot of mileage on those wheels, and I'm scared given the age. These guys are not the youngest running backs. They're in that second contract. Saquon Barkley, while he's the one I'm probably most safest with taking, he's still dealing with a quarterback that is called Daniel Jones, who does not move the offense correctly. At least he hasn't. And a struggling offensive line, especially with the Giants moving on from Zeitler. Nick Chubb, as great as he is, he probably has the least question marks. He has a very good running back behind him named Kareem Hunt that is going to eat into his production, which is what makes this option most compelling. I love the next tier running backs. If you're drafting between 3 and 11, go get the wide receiver one. Go get Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. Go get one of those guys, or DeAndre Hopkins. Go get the guy that every week plays and has in his range of abilities a wide receiver one performance every single week. And to me, that's Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and DeAndre Hopkins. I have no question marks about those guys. Let's go over the next tier running backs that you can get a second and third round. They have crazy amount of opportunities. So telling me you're starting, let's say, with a Devontae Adams, and you come around and you're able to get a Clyde Edwards-Helaire and a David Montgomery, or you're able to get a Antonio Gibson and a Darrell Henderson, or a Joe Mixon and an Austin Eckler, or a Chris Carson. 2 of those guys, I am more than happy. I'm more than stoked to plug them into my RB1 and RB2. All those names I just mentioned have the opportunity share, have been productive before, and have the talent to possibly be RB1s. If I can come away with a legitimate guaranteed advantage at wide receiver and come around with 2 of those guys from that tier, I'm stoked. So let's go over this quickly, what it boils down to draft strategy. If you get the first 2 picks, it's easy. Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. Enough said. It's a no-brainer. Don't think about it. If you get towards the end, pick 11, pick 12, you're likely in the wrap of a snake draft able to get 2 anchor players. Let's say like a Stephon Diggs and a Travis Kelce, or a Nick Chubb and a Saquon Barkley, or a Travis Kelce and a DK Metcalf. Who knows? You may be Stephon and DK. Those guys are anchor players. And if you're able to get 2 guys from that tier, amazing. That is the next best place to be drafting. The third best place to be drafting, just pick 3 to pick 11. To me, in my opinion, get the wide receiver 1 and wrap around in rounds 2 and round 3 and get 2 running backs from that tier 3 running backs that I just went over that are insanely talented. This is as deep as I've ever seen that running back. You're in no place at a disadvantage with these 3 strategies going into your draft. You just have to make sure that you adjust according to your pick. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. And I have a lot of competitors that I play fantasy with watching. So I'm probably going to give away a lot of my draft strategy, but here we go. I am going to tell you mid-round targets that you need to come away with. Guys that will guarantee to give you much more return than their draft capital. Brandon Ayuk. I know everyone's on this train. So am I. I had him last year, and every time he played, he produced. He's elite. I watched the all 22. I watched the play-by-play. He is the guy. It is not Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is limited to short to intermediate passes and crossing routes and route running. He is a slot receiver. Meanwhile, Ayuk has the ability to go everywhere, and he has deep speed. Ayuk is the guy in that offense, and a fun offense that is going to come with the most innovative mind, arguably aside from Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan. And he's going to dial up plays for Ayuk, and his fantasy production is almost guaranteed. So Brandon Ayuk, and he's going in the 6th round. Go take him, because I believe he's going to be a back-end wide receiver 1 or top-end wide receiver 2. My next guy that I'm picking is Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's not beat around the bush. Big Ben is cooked. Well, his arm is cooked at least. And Deontay Johnson was the wide receiver 1 last year. Going in the back of the 5th, early 6th round, you're going to get wide receiver 2 numbers guaranteed, if not wide receiver 1. Go get him. Drafting is all about value. Make sure that when you see a guy who's guaranteed the opportunity, he's going to give you more than what everybody else around him is going to give you. And the last guy I'm going to mention, I've probably been mentioning him over the last couple of years. He's been a disappointment, but I just think the talent is way too much. And that's Odell Beckham Jr. Go get Odell. Odell was largely regarded a top 3 receiver, if not the best receiver in the league. And yes, he's been battling injuries and a new offense and a new quarterback who doesn't really know how to get him the ball. But these guys have been practicing all offseason together. And I just think Odell cannot be this ass for this long. Eventually, talent has to come through, right? The next guy, oh my God, please, I hope no one drafts him. I hope I'm able to get him, is Darrell Henderson. Guys, I know we were all hype on Cam Akers, including myself. He was the guy everyone wanted, right? Cam Akers was the dude from last year, the second year best breakout running back, right? Even above Jonathan Taylor. Darrell Henderson, before Cam Akers did his wheels under him last year, was the guy. He was an RB1 to RB2 on a week-to-week basis. What making Darrell Henderson so great is that in drafts, he's falling. People aren't bought in. His role will be, which is the RB1 for the LA Rams, with Sean McVay. You're getting him I've seen him fall to the 5th round. You're telling me I've been able to pick 4 players before getting a guaranteed RB2, maybe possibly an RB1? That is a value. Sign me up, bro. I'm going to go over sleepers. And what I consider sleepers is after round 9. Right? Anything after round 9, when everyone's just like, you're just looking at a mess of players and you don't know who to pick and they're all backups or guys you don't even know the names of. These are the times that you play the lottery the most. These are sleepers. Don't tell me a sleeper is your 6th round pick or Darrell Henderson. Everybody knows eventually if you get the opportunity, he's going to go off. You got to show me a sleeper, a late round sleeper. And these guys are all going after round 9. In fact, most of them are going undrafted that you need to have on your team if you want to win. Number 1, Corey Davis. Corey Davis last year had my vote for most improved player of the year. He played like the 1st round pick that he was drafted to be last year. Not just his production showed it, but PFF had him as a top 10 wide receiver at the end of the year. And now he's going to the Jets, where he will be the number 1. I know everyone's hyping on Elijah Moore, but he's a rookie, and he may be the number 1. Maybe his talent overcomes it, but it's going to take him time to get there. I've been to the Jets scrimmage, and everything I hear out of training camp, Zach Wilson's number 1 read is Corey Davis. You're telling me you're getting a guy who's the number 1 option, the number 1 read in terms of the wide receiver core of the New York Jets from Zach Wilson, who maybe can be a generational talent. Some people say this guy's the next Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, based on the way he moves and his arm talent. And his number 1 receiver is going in the 9th, 10th, 11th round of fantasy drafts, who had a top 10 wide receiving grade last year in PFF, who was a 1st round pick. Come on. It doesn't make sense. You get Corey Davis on your bench. I guarantee he'll be a flex start week 1. The next player that I'm going to mention was my favorite wide receiver coming out of the draft. He wasn't my wide receiver 1. That was Jamar Chase. But he was my favorite, and that's Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore is electric. Anyone who knows me knows that my favorite wide receiver growing up was Steve Smith, and this is his reincarnation. He's the closest thing to Tyreek Hill that we're going to get. Everyone's been looking for the Tyreek Hill. They said it was Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, and these guys may be. Who knows? What makes Tyreek Hill special is just not his speed. It's not elite speed. We've seen elite speed. Is that people with elite speed don't have the strength that Tyreek Hill has. And is that going hand in hand? His speed with above average strength for a person of his size is what makes Tyreek Hill such a threat. And that's the same equation that made Steve Smith Sr. or Steve Smith at the time such an elite threat at the wide receiver position back when he was wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. This is the same equation that presents itself in Rondale Moore. He will be everything they thought Andy Isabella was going to be. Andy Isabella, elite speed, no strength. And exactly how they use him in the preseason. He's going to have bubble screens, shallow routes, deep balls. He has elite speed and hard to tackle, and that combination is rare. That's what makes Tyreek Hill so rare, and that's what makes Steve Smith so rare. They are small guys who have incredible strength for their size while still maintaining elite speed. Fast guys aren't strong guys aren't fast, except in these cases. My next sleeper, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is a rookie for the Detroit Lions, and Detroit Lions are going to constantly be playing from behind. They're not going to be good. They're going to constantly going to be in the position to have to throw the ball in order to keep up. Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones are gone. That's why I'm so high on TJ Hockenson and DeAndre Swift. They have to throw the ball somewhere. Their rookie wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the year before, he was projected as one of the top receivers coming out of the draft. Then he had a bad year in college, and he fell down the boards that he wasn't considered one of those elite receivers in the draft. He's a possession receiver, and that's what Jared Goff needs. And that's what he's been used to with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. He is a guy who primarily works out of the slot. He's a strong body. He's a possession guy. He's going to move the chains. He's going to go from point A to point B at a certain time. He's that kind of receiver. And I honestly don't see who's going to compete with him for targets aside from TJ Hockenson and DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. There's no one else in Detroit. And they got to throw the ball somewhere, especially when you're going to be losing by the margins they're going to be losing by. And because of what's happening, all the instability and all the changing moving pieces in the New Orleans Saints, go get Tre'Quan Smith. Tre'Quan Smith has the ability, or at least the athletic profile, to be a wide receiver 1. In the meantime, while Michael Thomas is away. I don't believe in Marquez Callaway. I'm not into the hype yet. I think somebody has to catch the ball. He's in a prime position to get a lot of opportunities and targets. Go get Tre'Quan Smith. It doesn't hurt. You put him at the bottom of your bench, and if you have to cut him after week 1, cut him after week 1. But if he goes in week 1 and gets 10, 11 targets, then you're like, whew, I went and got a guy at the last round. They're getting 10 and 11 targets on a week-to-week basis. Give me that. I hope this helps you go in your draft.